All right, guys, let's get into this one. CrossFit is not for everyone. Anybody can do CrossFit, but it is not for everyone, and there's not much that is for everyone. A lot of different personalities in the world, different mindsets. We fit better with different things. And this is the second part to the series I started a couple weeks ago and then diverted to MetFix, which I will be coming back to that as well down the road, but I wanted to wrap this one up. And originally in the first video, the first 5 mistakes I called the rookie mistakes. And I was going to call this one the quitters, but I decided there was too much judgment in that title. And I don't like being judgmental. I find it to be one of the most dislikable qualities in people in general, to be judgmental. And I'm going to call this one when it's not a good fit. And so as I said, CrossFit is not for everyone. General physical preparedness, high intensity training, whatever you want to call it, isn't going to fit with every personality. And I think sometimes with a perspective switch, it can become a good fix, which is why I'm going to go over this. But just over the years, this is 5 very common scenarios I've seen come up that way. And so without further ado, the first one. And guys, this has become a statement I don't hear near as much, and it's laughable, and I'll explain why. But you've heard girls say, and this one's kind of more directed at girls, I don't want to add too much muscle. I don't want to get too bulky. And there was a good meme going around on Instagram for a while saying I don't want to add too much muscle is saying like I don't want to accidentally become a billionaire. And that is exactly right, because anyone who has tried to put on muscle knows how hard it is, and knows that especially without drugs, it is impossible for your body to put on too much muscle. It's like someone going to Michael Taylor and saying, I'm really worried as I lower my finances that I'm going to accidentally make too much money. It's laughable. Like it's just preposterous. And this is preposterous too. But when you start working out and getting stronger, muscle weighs something. Muscle is a very dense tissue. This much, the size of my fist of muscle, weighs as much as a pillow sized full of fat. Maybe not exactly, but close. Fat is not a dense tissue, and so it takes up more space on your body than muscle does, but muscle affects the scale a lot more in that sense. And so when you start working out and you're getting stronger, there is no way, once you've turned on your nervous system and your nervous system knows how to fire your motor units, the only way to get stronger is to add muscle. And so the scale is going to reflect that. But if you don't change your diet, the scale is going to go up, because yes, you have fat on your body too. And so the scale by nature is going to go up. Now you can offset that by adjusting your diet and getting leaner, and that muscle will help you get leaner easier because it increases your metabolism. Sitting on the couch, suddenly you're burning more energy because that muscle is a high maintenance tissue. Your body has to keep up. But if you're too obsessed with the scale, I'm getting too bulky. No, you're getting stronger. And if you don't adjust your diet, yes, the scale is going to go up. And that's why I think the scale, I'm not against weighing yourself, but I think it should be a secondary indicator to where you're at. Am I in a good or bad place from a health perspective? That's how I use the scale. I've been 205 and had it be a soft, not good 205, and I've been 205 and be a very good 205 pounds. Right now I'm walking around in the low 190s, which is a lean weight for me. When I was carrying more muscle, I could be lean as well and still be over 200. But I would say first, you know how you look naked. When you're in the mirror, looking at yourself in the mirror, is this a good weight or a bad weight? And what I think you need to do is look at yourself in the mirror, and then when you know, okay, I like how I look, then you weigh yourself. And then you're like, all right, this is a good weight for me based on how much muscle I'm carrying right now. But then if you get stronger, you may still look really good in the mirror and be like, yes, this is still a healthy version of me. I'm still fit, but the scale weight has gone up. So you can't worry about that as the only indicator. It is an indicator, and you can know when you weigh the same weight and it's a good weight at that weight or a bad weight. And so for those that are just obsessed with the scale, they're going to get stronger. You're going to get stronger when you train how we train, and that is a good thing for everyone. But if that's your only indicator, then yeah, it's going to freak you out. And I'm here to say that just know when that starts happening, if that's freaking you out a lot, you control that. You've added good weight. It is now time to get rid of the bad weight and start addressing the diet side, which again is something I just talked about last week. So that's the first one. The second one, And guys, this is pretty cut and dried. The person who frankly doesn't want to work this hard, we work very hard when you work at high intensity by nature. That's the definition of it. The person doesn't work this hard, and so they say it is too dangerous. And this is something, guys, everyone can see from the outside when someone's doing that. And I'm going to say not everyone wants to work this hard. I think it is very good for you, but not everybody personality-wise is going to go there. And so, yeah, this is a person, there's no point in calling them out. I don't think there's any point in doing that. I've never seen that be useful. It's just not for them because they don't want to work this hard. I think shifting the blame to the methodology and saying the methodology is dangerous is obviously an excuse and is a way to cover my own ass that I don't want to work this hard. I think it takes a rare amount of honesty to be able to say that, and that is refreshing when you see that. But usually that's the case. This is too dangerous when I see, obviously, it freaks me out to be that out of breath. To be panting and laying on the ground exhausted is not something that is conducive with me. I think it's alarming to everyone when you do it at first. If you can practice it and get through it, and that's why I say working out with CrossFit, you haven't even done CrossFit until you've done it for 90 days. Until you've done it regularly, 4 to 5 times a week for 90 days, you haven't even experienced it yet because your body's not ready for it. And then even beyond that, you continue to get better. The worst times I redlined in CrossFit were all in the first couple years I did this. I still redline, but it feels different now than it feels back then because my body has adapted to it and I will recover faster from anything. But yeah, that's the second one I see. The third one, athletes blaming CrossFit, and I was just getting into this a few weeks ago, blaming CrossFit for them doing it wrong. It's not the methodology. It is either your ego or bad coaching, and it can be both. A coach that is encouraging you to do something you're not ready for or not stopping you from doing something you're trying to do that you're not ready for, a heavy snatch, a bunch of fast snatches, working a very bad form on muscle ups, clanging your head against the ground doing handstand push-ups you have no business doing. A coach needs to help set you up for what you should be doing and try and stop you from hurting yourself with what you shouldn't be doing. That's what we're there for. And then with the ego, everyone is going to have to learn to put their ego aside in CrossFit because I don't care how fit you are or how athletic you are. CrossFit, because of the nature of the breadth and depth of the movements we use, is going to find where your weakness is. And for a lot of people who have been good athletes most of their life, that is just very humbling. And if you can't set your ego aside and deal with that, then you're going to find another reason why this isn't going to work. And you're going to potentially just keep banging your head against a wall, doing stuff you shouldn't be doing. And then, yeah, CrossFit is dangerous. It injures me. And it is not the methodology. It is how you're applying it to yourself. The fourth one, and this is very similar, but the seasoned athlete that comes into CrossFit and is not willing to be humbled. And just like I said, I don't care what athletic background you come from, any kind of sport. There are certain sports that by nature apply to CrossFit better. If you come from a gymnastic background or Olympic lifting background, you're going to quickly be good at certain things we do. If you come from a triathlete background, you're going to be good at the body weight monostructural workouts we do, potentially. You have that engine. If you come from different sports, I see volleyball players that can come into CrossFit and be very good at a lot of things we do. Football players are going to be strong, so they're going to be good at certain things we do. But all of them, CrossFit is going to pull out what they're not trained at, what they're not skilled at, whether they have limited range of motion, whether one of the energy systems in their bodies is not trained, or whether they have endurance but not strength, or strength but not endurance, whatever. And for those people that are used to being good at something, they too have to swallow their pride and be willing to walk the road of a beginner in CrossFit and high intensity training to get better at it. And I find that, especially for the good athletes, is very difficult. And it's refreshing when you see the ones that can do this and do it. But I find very often those are people that try CrossFit, depending on luck of the draw, they may hit a few workouts in a row they're good at. And then they hit a couple they're not good at. And what the hell's going on here? Why am I sucking at this? Why is this girl over there beating me at this that I think I'm way more athletic than? Whatever. And you can either deal with that mentally or you can't. And I find a lot of good athletes struggle with that. So that's where, again, I respect the ones who can switch their mindset and make this a good fit, but a lot of them struggle with doing that. And they're just going to go back to doing what they're good at, and way better than doing nothing, for sure. Way better than doing nothing. Their fitness may not be as well-rounded as I would like it to be, but if they're doing something and they're working on their fitness, good on them. I'm glad. And then the last one is very personal to me. The masters athlete who cannot adjust their training style as they age. And this is going to be an imperfect road that all of us walk if we stay with this for a long time. You're going to get to a point where getting close to your previous numbers is a success, or you're not going to hit your previous numbers again. Where you need to learn, there are certain movements I used to be able to do proficiently that maybe I have to do sparingly, or I can't even do right now. This becomes something, each individual athlete, as you age in CrossFit, this has to become a very personal journey with a lot of self-awareness. And there's a razor's edge tightrope you walk. I can't take it easy on myself. And I also have to curb that part in my brain that is driving me to go harder. And I find for a lot of guys like myself that have the little voice in our head telling us we're always a pussy, it is really hard to curb that voice, because like when there's stuff and it hurts and it's hard, I'm just going to keep going through it. That's what I need to do. I'm not going to stop. And there's a lot of places where that is appropriate. But as you age, you need to learn when it is appropriate for, this is not going to make me more fit right now. This is not making me healthier. And it is the wrong kind of pain or the wrong kind of hard, whatever you want to call it, for me to be working at. It is something I have done very imperfectly and had to learn this lesson the hard way many, many times in the last 10 years specifically. Since I passed 40, between 40 and 50, I've had several surgeries, several injuries, and they were all my fault. A lot of them were coming due because of stuff I did in my 20s that I was gonna pay for eventually. So some of it was mistakes I made as a young man. But still, this is a journey all of us have to walk, and it's really hard. And I think this is why a lot of games athletes stop doing CrossFit. They're used to doing everything so well and at such a high level that I've heard some of them suddenly say, you know what, I decided CrossFit is dangerous. No. You need to adjust your expectations and adjust the way you do it to an appropriate level for you right now. And I'm happy to see, like most of you guys know who Rich Froning is. I think he's done that very well. And he's had some injuries. It's not like it's been perfect, but I've seen him adjust. And he still is a better CrossFitter than all of us will ever be as he's getting older. But I see him adjusting his expectations to himself. And I've seen others just not and quit. And for us too, I see guys that as you get 45, 46, 47 years old, one, you're going to have to dial in your diet. And I'm going to be a broken record on this forever. As I've just experienced, that becomes so much more critical to having a healthy circulatory system, healthy blood pressure, healthy tendons and ligaments specifically, is making sure you're feeding yourself good quality food. So you can't get away with how you ate like garbage before and would just try and outwork it in the gym. Your body can't do that anymore. And so you have to tighten up on that side to still get the most out of yourself in the gym. And even the most is not what it was in the past. And that doesn't mean you're failing. You're actually succeeding, because take yourself out of that situation. Any of us who've been doing this for a while, and put yourself into the general population with anybody our age, and we're killing it. We're in the top 1%. Everybody wants to be like us. But when you have a different standard and you're holding yourself to the standard of what the 30-year-olds are doing in the gym that you're working out with, you have to temper your expectations. And that is a really hard one, and something that I think a lot of us, as CrossFit has gotten older, CrossFit became popular, I'm going to say around 2010. I got started a little bit before that. But as it's aging, a lot of us that got into it are aging too. And so I think we're all learning that lesson together. So those are the 5 mistakes I see people make with CrossFit high intensity training that I'm going to say sometimes if you can't change your perspective with any of these, it just may not be a good fit for you long term. Right on. Let me know what you think. Later.